Anabolic cutting is an entirely new way of getting shredded without losing a chunk of your hard-earned muscle. Using the anabolic cutting method, 99% of my total weight loss was from fat, with next to no lean body mass loss whatsoever. In addition, my testosterone levels at the end of my cutting period were 2 to 3 times higher than those in the case studies we're going to look at in this video. Here I will share the diet plan, meal timings, macro breakdown, the exercises that I was doing. I will also be sharing my DEXA body scan results, before and after pictures, progress pictures, and all the other data I collected along the way, and why this is by far the best way of getting lean and shredded. Before we look at my results and some of the case studies, I'm going to share the benefits I've discovered from the anabolic cutting method. Firstly, we're going to look at metabolic adaptation. If any of you guys have dieted before, I'm going to assume that most of us have been there, you'll notice after a few weeks or a couple of months that your rate of weight loss slows down. While there is evidence to suggest that this is partly due to us becoming a bit more slack with our diet and training, there are studies that show that there is a level of metabolic adaptation. This is where our bodies become better at using the calories available. Therefore, the rate of weight loss slows down. Unfortunately, that means when you're trying to get lean and shredded, you need to add more cardio and you need to cut your calories further. This means that you're going to be reducing some of the essential macro and micronutrients you need to preserve lean body mass. With the anabolic cutting method, I didn't suffer from this at all. I carried on eating the same amount of calories at the start as I did at the end 24 weeks later. In fact, if anything, it appears that my metabolic rate improved because I lost more weight during the final 8 weeks than the first 8 weeks, even though my levels of cardio and my calorie intake were the same. The anabolic cutting program was designed with bodybuilders and physique competitors in mind. According to current literature, this kind of competition preparation can lead to sleep and mood disturbances. I'm glad to say that while using the anabolic cutting method, I didn't suffer from any of these negative impacts. One of the largest problems male bodybuilders face when trying to get ready for a competition or just trying to get lean and ripped is that you will lose a chunk of your muscle mass. This is almost seen as a certainty or a prerequisite once you get down to super low body fat percentages. As I already mentioned at the start of this video, that was not the case with me. I retained almost 100% of my lean body mass while following this program. The combination of exercise selection, meal timing, macro breakdown, and supplementation came together to form the perfect environment for shedding the fat without compromising lean muscle gains. Before I began the anabolic cutting routine, I hypothesized that my testosterone levels would not suffer as greatly as the case studies we're going to look at later. I didn't take a testosterone test at the start of the cutting period because I wasn't aware that home testing kits existed. As soon as I became aware that the anabolic cutting method was going to be as good, if not better than I'd hoped, I decided to look into getting my testosterone levels checked. I was keen to see how they would compare to the testosterone levels in the other case studies. One reason for the superior rate of lean body mass retention would have been higher testosterone levels. We'll examine 4 case studies in this video of people on a similar journey to myself. As you can see from this chart, testosterone levels at the end of the anabolic cutting period were 2 to 3 times higher than those in the case studies where testosterone levels were reported. In both the other case studies, their levels were regarded as low, and studies currently suggest that this was a significant player in the reduction of lean body mass in these subjects. I've also included here an image from my blood test results, which shows my entire testosterone profile, and as you can see from the image, everything fell within the normal range. What better way of determining the effectiveness of a workout program than by comparing like for like? In this case, the same person performing different routines. I have tracked my calories, workouts and measurements for 7 years, since about spring 2013. However, it wasn't until March 2017 that I began having DEXA body scans to add a bit more data to verify the results. I've tried low carb diets, low fat diets, intermittent fasting, lifting heavy, lifting with higher volume to see what works when trying to get cut and get lean. Unfortunately, every time I tried to get shredded, I simply got smaller. The first cutting method we're looking at here is a slow cut method. As a little disclaimer, I wasn't actively trying to cut at this point. I was actually still experimenting with body recomposition. So my calories were only being reduced very slightly, and I was following the exact same program as I was for body recomposition, which was lifting 4 times a week with an upper-lower split, 1 day for strength, 1 day for hypertrophy. During this routine, I also started taking fat burner supplements. And as you can see from these results here, it was not quite what I was expecting. I actually added fat and lost lean mass. I think that tells you all you need to know about fat burning supplements. The second cutting method we can look at here was when I was lifting heavy and frequently. So you might have read or heard that you shouldn't change up your routine when you're looking to get cut. You should pretty much follow the same routine as before because you want to preserve muscle mass, so you need to keep lifting heavy. So during this period, I kept to the same routine as I was doing, and I was lifting 6 times per week, but I cut my calories down, so I was losing weight at a rate of about 1% per week. If you look at my results here, you'll notice that a considerable amount of the weight I lost was from lean body mass. In fact, my rate of weight loss was very similar to one of the case studies we'll look at in a moment, at about 1% per week. And in fact, the level of lean body mass loss was almost the same as well, both at around 41 to 42%. When I finished my second body recomposition experiment, I was carrying more fat than I'd have liked, so I decided I'd develop a routine to get shredded. Using my past results and the past data, I did some more research and decided I'd build a plan that would maximize fat loss while minimizing lean body mass loss. The anabolic cutting method was designed with bodybuilders and physique competitors in mind, so I was effectively putting myself through a 24-week competition prep with the idea of getting down to kind of stage-ready body fat percentages at the end. And this is where the big issue lies, and that is the leaner you get, the more lean body mass you're going to lose when you're dieting. The current literature and current case studies on the matter all support this theory that once you start getting down to kind of stage-ready body fat percentages or near to that, you're going to lose lean body mass. This is a result of lower testosterone, restricted calories, a number of factors that are going to come into play. You know, you're not going to be lifting as heavy, all those things that contribute to the reduction in lean body mass. So I started off designing the anabolic cutting routine with hormone regulation is the cornerstone. So this was all based around the diet element. So I developed a process called Anabolic Fasting, which we'll go over in a moment. But firstly, let's take a look at the 4 case studies that exist. So while researching for the anabolic cutting method, I discovered 4 case studies that looked at male bodybuilders prepping for a competition. Now, the reason I'm focusing on male bodybuilders is that there are quite a few studies that have shown women are actually still able to retain lean body mass or even recomposition while prepping for a competition. Naturally, you know, their hormones are completely different from men's and they'll be relying a lot on growth hormones. So things like intermittent fasting and stuff like that that's been shown to promote growth hormone was definitely something that was in my mind when designing the anabolic cutting program. So for the case studies, their prep time ranged from 14 weeks to 32 weeks. The rate that they lost weight differed, the training programs they did were slightly different, and their diets and meal plans were different as well. The participant in one of the studies, I think it's the Pardue and colleagues one, actually had their body fat measured using BodPod and DEXA. The results between both their measures were actually quite different, which is surprising given that both BodPod and DEXA are considered highly accurate ways of measuring body fat percentages. For this reason, I decided to include both measurements when comparing the programs. So here is the first chart looking at the percentage of lean body mass lost as a proportion of overall body weight. Ideally, the perfect result we're looking for when cutting down and getting ready for a competition or getting shredded is retaining all of your lean body mass or actually maybe putting some on. As can be seen from this chart, the proportion of total weight loss attributable to lean body mass was actually between 13% in the DEXA results from the Pardue and colleagues study, all the way up to 55% in the same study, obviously using the BodPod. Everything in between, you're looking at between 20 and 40% of your total weight loss coming from lean body mass. And it makes sense if your testosterone levels are going down, you're not able to lift as heavy, you're eating fewer calories. You know, this makes perfect sense that you're going to lose some of your lean mass. As you can see, the percentage of lean body mass as a proportion of total weight loss in the anabolic cutting method was almost 0. This puts it in a completely different league from all of the case studies. It's not even like it was a little bit better, it's just not even comparable. The second chart here looks at the percentage decrease in lean body mass. So we're interested in, how much of your original lean mass did you lose along the way. As you can see from the chart, this was as high as 8.8% and as low as 0.7% in the anabolic cutting method. Other key observations from the case studies is that all participants noticed a reduction in their resting metabolic rate. All of them had to cut their calories further and add extra cardio to maintain a linear rate of weight loss. This did not happen with anabolic cutting. I kept my calories the same throughout and I kept the cardio the same from start to end. Looking at the data in the case studies, it is clear that a slower rate of weight loss is more favourable. The data also suggests that less cardio is better for retaining lean body mass as well. So anything we can do that reduces the rate of metabolic adaptation and the need to cut calories and increase cardio is important. If you want to find out more about these case studies, then just check out the blog article below. I've included references to all the studies used and gone into a bit more detail on what I found when examining the data. So now I'm going to share with you how I did it, starting with the anabolic fasting method. Anabolic fasting is a new form of intermittent fasting. When I designed the routine, I had a few key things in mind. Firstly, I wanted to keep my calories in check. Secondly, I wanted to concentrate my calories within the 24-hour period following a workout. This is where protein synthesis is highest, especially in people who are not new to lifting. When you're new to lifting, protein synthesis can occur for sort of 24 to 72 hours after a workout. When you've been lifting for some time, the window for protein synthesis is shorter. Thirdly, I wanted to optimize hormone regulation and minimize hormone disruption. And lastly, I wanted to create an environment where my metabolic rate adapted more slowly. Anabolic fasting means you'll be fasting for 24 hours straight. You'll then work out and then you'll eat 2 days worth of calories in the 24 hours following your workout. I theorized that the exact 24 hours of fasting followed by the 24 hours of eating would disrupt the circadian clock, also known as the circadian oscillator or circadian rhythm. All of our biological processes are kind of based on this clock, which is a 24-hour clock based on a normal day. If you're not eating for an entire cycle, I thought, this is going to probably cause some kind of level of disruption to the way this works. It's important to note that the anabolic fasting method is not the same as alternate day fasting. So alternate day fasting, I guess, comes closest to this. That's where you eat one day, fast the next, and repeat. The main thing here is that actually as part of the alternate day fasting regime, you are able to eat 25% of your calories on your fast days. So if you think about it, you're not ever really going to be fasting for 24 hours at a time, especially if you decide you're going to eat your calories kind of halfway through the day. With anabolic fasting, you are literally consuming 0 calories over a 24-hour period, nothing. All I had was water and black coffee. Another trap people fall into is they want to eat regular meals. If you're in a calorie deficit, you want to be eating every 2 to 3 hours to make sure you're not breaking down muscle. And this again comes back to that mindset that people have when cutting down, and that is we want to preserve mass, Whereas you get the mindset of anabolic cutting is that no, we don't. We want to build as much muscle as possible to counteract the negative impact of being in a calorie deficit. So there are studies that have shown that intermittent fasting is superior to a standard calorie restricted diet. So one of the papers I looked at had reviewed various studies looking at just a standard calorie restricted diet versus intermittent fasting. And they found that on a normal calorie restricted diet, about 25% of the total weight loss came from lean body mass. Now, if you compare this to the intermittent fasting diet, only 10% of their weight loss came from lean body mass. The issue with these studies is they didn't use, in the intermittent fasting ones, they didn't use things like DEXA. They didn't use a more accurate way of measuring the body fat. And they didn't do it for a prolonged period of time either. So there's still a little bit of skepticism surrounding those results. Skepticism I'm hoping we can put to bed with this. That shows that actually intermittent fasting is a far superior way of retaining lean body mass when you're trying to get lean and shredded. Here we're going to have a look at the meal timing and how that works out. So in simple terms, I worked out my daily maintenance calories, took off like 350 calories per day, which was kind of the level of weight loss I wanted to achieve, combined them together into a 48-hour calorie requirement, and then I split that into 3 equal meals. So I worked out I needed to be consuming about 2,100 calories a day. Over 2 days, that's 4,200 calories, split into 3 even meals is 1,400 calories per meal. So I would fast for 24 hours, work out in the evening about 9 o'clock, eat my first meal at 10 o'clock, then I'd fast for another 16 hours, and I'd eat my second meal in the early afternoon the next day, followed by another 8-hour fast where I'd then eat my third meal, and then the process would repeat. Regarding macros, it's pretty simple. You can head on and use the protein intake calculator on the Fitness Savvy website to work out your protein requirements. Remember, if you're basing your body fat percentage on a tape measurement or body fat calipers, add about 10%, 7 to 10% to that number to work out your protein intake. I did add about a 10% buffer to this calculation just to be on the safe side, because I didn't want to compromise anything by not consuming enough protein. So I was eating 165 grams of protein a day. I was 165 pounds when I started, so it worked out about 1 gram per pound of body weight. Your fat intake should make up about 20 to 30% of your calories. And then regarding carbs, it will be just whatever's left over. You know, whatever your leftover calories are, they will come from carbs. Carb cycling is a method advocated in a lot of cutting programs and was used in one, I think maybe 2 of these case studies we looked at where they cycled their carbs. I did not cycle carbs. My carbs were just the same on every day, concentrated into that 24-hour window. One thing to note is that within the 24 hours following a workout, I was effectively eating 330 grams of protein, 500 grams of carbs, and about 110 grams of fat. So following that hours-long workout, my body was being fueled with everything it needed to be able to build muscle. The anabolic cutting workout routine follows a simple upper-lower split. I didn't want to overcomplicate things here. The workout frequency will be 3.5 times per week because you're just working out every other day. This was kind of dictated by the fasting method. You know, if I'm going to fast for 24 hours and feed for 24 hours, working out every other day make the most sense. So you'll be working out 3 times one week, 4 times the next. It works out that you'll train each body part about 1.75 times per week, which is kind of optimal. In the anabolic training program, which you can download if you go to the link below and go and do that, I set up the program to keep the total number of sets per body part in the range of 10 to 20 sets, which is a commonly accepted range to stay within, regardless of how many times per week you're training. You know, whether you're training twice a week or 5 times a week with a full body split, as long as you're keeping within the 10 to 20 sets per body part, you should be good. I think one of the biggest misconceptions out there is that you shouldn't change your training routine when you're looking to cut. But think about it logically, this doesn't make any sense. Your training goals are completely different. You're looking to lose fat and preserve muscle, or in the anabolic case, you're actually looking to try and build some muscle. So everything needs to change. Your macro profile needs to change, your dieting, your timing of everything. Your exercise selection needs to change to a degree. And what I mean by that is that I was aiming to do more supersets. There's anecdotal evidence in the bodybuilding community, you know, do more sets, do higher volume, you're going to burn more calories. But the consensus seems to be, no, you need to be lifting heavy and, you know, preserving lean mass and keeping your strength. But under all these programs, people's strength suffered. So, I mean, what's the point in that? For the anabolic training program, you should keep the core compound lifts in there, so you still want to be doing bench presses, squats, deadlifts. I did all the core compound moves in the 8 to 10 rep range. I then threw in a ton of supersets, some of which we're going to look at here, some examples. So the first superset we will look at here is the T-bar row followed by straight arm pushdown. So for all supersets in the routine, they were all done for 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps with 60 seconds rest between sets. I like the T-bar row followed by straight arm push down. It will give you a massive pump in your back. The straight arm push down is great because it takes the biceps out of the equation, so you can really kind of isolate the back with this move. So yeah, if you're developing your own program to follow along to the anabolic cutting routine, then I highly advise, including some of these in your routine. It's an awesome exercise to do. The second superset I'm going to share with you is my favorite chest superset, and that is an incline dumbbell bench press followed by a plate squeeze. I didn't have access to cables when I was working out at home, so I wanted an exercise that kind of allowed me to kind of get my chest activated in a similar kind of way. And plate squeezes, you're really going to feel that in the middle of your chest. You're getting your chest in a position that you can't really do with dumbbells, so by kind of doing your dumbbell bench press and then picking up a plate and doing some squeezes, you get a really, really good chest pump, and this has helped me develop a much bigger chest. Again, you'll be looking for 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps. Finish doing your bench press and then, pick up a weight plate and go for your reps there. The final superset is my favorite tricep superset. So these are all my favorite supersets here. I've never had a triceps pump like I do doing this one. This is easy bar skull crushers followed by V-bar pushdowns. Now you might notice on the skull crushers here that I'm not bringing the bar down to my forehead, which is how I was doing it when I injured my elbow. That's why I was out of the gym for 6 months the first time round, and that's why I then developed the body recomposition plan. So in a way, it was kind of a blessing, but you should be bringing the bar down to your forehead because it's going to put undue pressure on your elbow. And if you're lifting heavy in a lower rep range, that's going to further add to the stress on the elbow joint. So yeah, you want to be bringing the bar down behind your head and then extending so your arms are about 45 degrees with the floor. Again, aim for 10 to 12 reps. Move straight onto your V-bar pushdowns, leave 60 seconds rest, and repeat. We've touched on cardio. So regarding cardio, I did start doing some high intensity interval training at the start. I started doing some sprints, but after about a week of doing that, I developed shin splints and I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to carry on with walking. So I would walk for about 4 hours per week, which I estimated as being about 1,200 calories. So here are my anabolic cutting results. I had a DEXA body scan at the start in June, and then every 8 weeks thereafter up until the 20th of November. During the first 8 weeks, I actually added lean mass, so I recompositioned. When I saw these results, that's when I first knew that anabolic cutting was going to be something special. My aim was to make sure that of my total weight loss, no more than sort of 20% of it came from lean body mass. For the second 8 weeks, I decided to change things up, to change a couple of the variables. The theory behind this was that if the changes worked and I got even better results, then I would continue for the final 8 weeks. And if the results weren't as good, I would revert back to the tried and tested method from the first 8 weeks. Unfortunately, about 3 weeks in, I got a pinched nerve in my neck and I had to take about a week off. So I missed, I think, 4 workouts. The issue I had there was that, that was actually quite a big chunk of the 8 weeks. I knew the results weren't going to be usable. But after I injured my neck, I thought, for these next 8 weeks, it's going to be a write-off. I will just carry on in the final 8 weeks as I did before, so I can compare like for like. The final 8 weeks saw the greatest reduction in body fat percentage and overall weight. So I lost about 10 pounds, 4.2% body fat. That's an extraordinary amount of body fat. And then if you think that I was doing it for 8 weeks and I lost 10 pounds while still consuming the same amount of calories as I was before and doing the same amount of cardio, it does suggest that my metabolic rate had improved. It's been 7 years in the making, 7 years of tracking calories, workouts, what meals I've been eating, taking measurements, tape measure measurements, DEXA body scans, everything. And finally, I've come up with a plan that's worked really well for me and has got me the physique that I was looking for. In the description below, you'll find links to useful tools such as the protein intake calculator that I built and used for this, the blog article on anabolic cutting, which contains a lot of information and the references to the studies, so you can go and check that out. I've also linked to the Anabolic Cutting program, which is going to contain everything you need to know about this, including the exact exercises I did, the rep range, the progressive overload that I used in this routine. I've also included examples of the meals I had with macro and micronutrient breakdowns, so you can see the exact level of vitamins and minerals I was taking during this process. So you can follow the plan exactly, so go and check that out below. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any more videos from the Fitness Savvy channel. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer that. And I'll see you for the next video, which is hopefully going to be in a few weeks' time on hibernation bodybuilding.